Уважаемые коллеги, дорогие друзья, здравствуйте. Очень приятно вас видеть. И все добрый вечер. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. This is also my first time at ZeroNights. And first times can be unforgettable. First times should be unforgettable. The first love, the first concert, the first kiss, and the first man-in-the-middle attack. Of course, I remember the supposedly first time when I was man-in-the-middle attack. Do you remember yours? I had configured a client to pull logs from a web server via an SSL connection over the Tor network. After some time, as new circuits were established, a new pull request failed to connect due to a certificate error. So I dumped the server certificate I was getting from the network endpoint and found it to differ from the one I was expecting to see. And at that time I realized, oh my gosh, I'm getting man in the middle of the attack. And the next thing I say to me is, wow, this is so cool. This is so cool. How many security philosophers have the ability to study their attack network flow from the inside out. First times are unforgettable. If only we could notice them. I hold dear the memory of a true positive, but this event is possibly outnumbered by the false negatives. All of which is to say that current web public infrastructure is fragile. We are, as a security community, witnessing with increasing frequency incidents, vulnerabilities, dramas, and failures of the infrastructure we daily entrust our business upon. China Internet Network Information Center, Lenovo, National Informatics Center of India, ANSI, Trustwave, Turtrust, DigiNoda, Komodo, VeriSign, and just 2 days ago, Dell, that followed the lead of Lenovo. These missteps, malicious or otherwise, allow the impersonation of a number of high-profile websites, granting to the impersonating entities the ability to spy on a sizable number of unsuspecting users. So, no fond memories for those of us who remain oblivious to their first time, right? Now, this is unfortunate, because if no silent failure is the pinnacle goal of security engineering, if no silent failure is the pinnacle goal of security engineering, undetected impersonation is no measure of success in our engineering effort. As if that was not enough cause for concern, we are now discussing about building cryptographic backdoors. Go figure. I work at the intersection of software security and security software, exploring and try to contain the space of an anticipated state. I want crypto to be open and robust. To me, secure backdoor sounds like an oxymoron, like almost safe. Can you imagine asking your special somebody, darling, are you safe? If she replies to you, almost, she's not going to give you a satisfactory answer. But it's about cryptographic backdoors that I would like to speak with today. So before moving further, let's give a quick look to the agenda, notwithstanding all this mess here. So I was already start talking about the sorrow state of the infrastructure we daily entrust our business upon. Shortly, I will introduce you to illusoryTLS, a backdoor targeting the RSA key generation that I submit to the first under-ended crypto contest. I will use this backdoor, this class of backdoors, in order to discuss the impact, their impact and their implication on the current web public key infrastructure. Before closing, I will share with you a novel backdoor embedding algorithm exploiting Alligator for doing surveillance. So let's get started. Crypto backdoors. This is a timely topic, often debated as a matter for government to legislate on. For today, I propose you to approach it As a technical space that some entities might have practically explored regardless of the policy framework and for intelligence purposes. If somebody, in the belief, however questionable, that a secure backdoor with a golden key is possible, and build one, we'll be able to notice if our communication were being compromised. We'll be able to notice if our communication were being exploited. Before delving into the technical details, I would like to poll your view about crypto backdoors. So if you feel inclined, please raise your hand and I recognize your view. How many of you think that backdoors can be asymmetric? Anyone? Just a few. And how many of you think that backdoors can be planted in data? All right. Well, the common view is that backdoors are symmetric in nature because they require some sort of malicious logic in the target system code base, which is to say that everyone with knowledge about the internals of the backdoor can exploit it, and given enough skills and effort, code review can spot their presence. Yet, the scarce research published in this field challenge this view. In fact, backdoors can be asymmetric, and their complete code does not enable anyone, except those with access to the key recovery system, to exploit the backdoor. And backdoor can be planted in data, or to paraphrase a popular quote on homoiconicity of some programming languages, backdoor is data, and data is backdoor. I ask you to consider the current web public key infrastructure. The entire X509 web PKI security architecture falls apart if a single certification authority public key certificate with a secretly embedded backdoor enters the certificate store of relying parties. Have we sufficient assurance that this did not happen already? While I'm not in the position to know if this already happened, I decided to explore this scenario from a both experimental and speculative point of view. Back in November 2014, 1 year ago, I submitted an entry to the first underhanded crypto contest called illusoryTLS. The underhanded crypto contest is a competition to write or modify crypto code that appears to be secure, but actually does something evil. illusoryTLS is an instance of the Yang-Young elliptic curve asymmetric backdoor in RSA key generation. The security outcome is the worst possible outcome because the backdoor completely perverts the security guarantees of the TLS protocol, allowing the attacker to impersonate the endpoints, tamper with the message, and actively drop their communication. The backdoor design reflects the following threat model. The backdoor designer can insert vulnerabilities into commercial encryption system, IT system, network and endpoint communication devices used by targets, can influence policies, standard, and specification for commercial public key technologies, interfere with the supply chain, disregard everything about policy, or she's simply in the position to build a security module used by the certification authority in order to generate the key material. illusoryTLS comprises 3 modules: an HTTPS client, a TLS server, and 2 certificate store. The code is part of Network Simple TLS, an Haskell library for network socket usage pattern using TLS security, and is used as is, without any modification. For the sake of simplicity and without loss of generality, illusoryTLS implements a simple echo service, with the client sending a basic HTTP command over an SSL channel awaiting the server response. So from a network security perspective, the architecture of illusoryTLS resembles the architecture of a standard web technology, with a client server entrusting a certificate store in order to mutually authenticate. So a question is due. If the client and server code is contributed by an open source project and is used as is, without any modification, where is the backdoor? I plant a backdoor in the certification authority public key certificates the 2 communicating endpoints rely upon to mutually authenticate. And the backdoor is highly robust against reverse engineering. In particular, the upper order bits of the RSA modules encode an asymmetric encryption of a seed generated at random. Now, the same seed was used to generate one of their RSA primes of the certification authority public key modulus. Therefore, the RSA modulus is at the same time an RSA public key and a ciphertext that gives to the backdoor designer, and possibly only to the designer, the ability to factor with ease the said modulus. This means that no backdoor will slip into the cryptographic credential issued to the communicating endpoints. The security notion implemented by illusoryTLS is 20 years old. Adam Young and Moti Jung introduced the notion of secretly embedded trapdoor with universal protection or setup at Crypto 96. illusoryTLS is an instance of the Young and Jung elliptic curve asymmetric backdoor in RSA key generation. And this work built upon the work they published in the proceedings of selected areas in cryptography in 2005. The same authors provide a work implementation at cryptovirology.com. illusoryTLS provides some noteworthy security properties. The first of which is the nobody but us, or NABUS. This means that the exploitation requires access to resource not embedded in the backdoor itself. In this case, the secret resource is an elliptic curve private key. Therefore, the vulnerability can be exploited by the backdoor designer and by whoever gains access to the associated key recovery system. So before moving further, I would like to ask you one question. How many of you believe that it's possible to forbid an enemy intelligence organization from gaining access to a private key? Well, I expect that those of you who are inclined to believe that it's possible to forbid an enemy intelligence organization from gaining access to a private key will be also inclined to regard this class of backdoors as possibly secure. Vice versa, at the same time, I expect that those of you who are inclined to regard all measures to prevent the disclosure of the private key to be circumventable, to be inclined also to regard cryptographic backdoors as inherently insecure. But on the top of the nobody but us security property, illusoryTLS implements some other properties, such as indistinguishability. As long as a computational hardness assumption called elliptic curve decisional Diffie-Hellman holds, the backdoor key pairs appear to all probabilistic polynomial time algorithms like genuine RSA key pairs. This means that black box access to the key generator does not allow detection. Furthermore, the backdoor is forward secure. So if a reverse engineer breaches into the key generator, then the previously stolen information remains confidential. And this backdoor is reusable because it can be used multiple times and against multiple targets. Therefore, it's interesting to look at the impact and the implication of this class of backdoors on public key infrastructure. The attacker can use the private key recovered by factoring the RSA modules in order to break the TLS security guarantees at will, exposing the communicating endpoint to a variety of attacks, ranging from impersonation to message tampering into active stropping of their communication whenever the attacker mounts a man-in-the-middle attack, not necessarily for the first time. This means that for the attacker, there's no need to have access to any private key used by system actors, and there's no need to tamper with the communicating endpoints. What the attacker needs to do is to retain control over the key generation of the target RSA modules. Therefore, I wonder, is the malicious implementer a threat mitigated by IT product security certification? Later, I will briefly review the security requirements set forth in the most common protection profile and demanded by industry organization, and I will argue why this is not the case. Before doing that, I would like to spend 2 minutes longer analyzing the impact and the implication of this class of backdoors on public key infrastructure. Because as soon as a single certification authority with a secretly embedded backdoor enters the certificate store or relying parties, the entire TLS security becomes fictional. As you may have already found out by experience, one rotten apple spoils the whole barrel. Rotting fruit releases ethylene, a molecule transfer in the gaseous phase that promotes fruit ripening. In the X509 setting, universal implicit cross-certification is the ethylene of trust. Almost prophetically, the structural formula for the ethylene molecule, C2H4, proves to be a schematic diagram for cross-certification. Here it is. Cross-certification enables entities in one public infrastructure to trust entities in another public infrastructure. This mutual trust relationship should be typically supported by a cross-certification agreement between the certification authority of each public infrastructure. So the agreement establishes the responsibilities and the liability of each party. Whenever we have a mutual trust relationship, each certification authority is required to issue a certificate to the other party in order to establish a relationship in both directions. The path of trust is not necessarily hierarchical, although the different PKI can have certificate hierarchies. What is important is that after two certification authorities have established and specified the terms of trust and issued the certificates to each other, entities within the separate public infrastructure can interact subject to the policies specifying the certificates. How beautiful. How beautiful, but this is just a theory. In practice, most current public infrastructure software employs a form of implicit cross-certification in which all root certification authorities are equally trusted. And this is equivalent to unbounded cross-certification among all certification authorities. Therefore, any certificate can be trivially replaced by a masquerader certificate from another certification authority, and the security of any certificate is reduced to the security of the least trustworthy certification authority who can issue a bogus certificate in order to usurp the legitimate one at the same level of trust. The bogus certificate issued to the Egypt-based MCS holdings installed in a man-in-the-middle proxy, as well as the Lenovo man-in-the-middle hardware, are just two examples of exploitation of this vulnerability. All of which is to say that universal implicit cross-certification, or the lack of boundaries on signer authorities, is to security, or the absence of mitigatable surprises, what ethylene is to rotting fruit. It makes the whole PKI as weak as the weakest link. Now, an asymmetric backdoor with the promise of exclusive exploitation may attract multiple attackers. And with multiple attackers going after a technical opportunity, the nobody but us security property will quickly turn into the everybody else but me security concern for those left behind. A race to exploitation may ensue, leading to a Me Too effect, a scenario that would negate any meaningful security whatsoever. And No Security is a pretty good album, by the way. Therefore, while dealing with this class attack in the X509 setting, it's not sufficient anymore to don't outsource the key generation step. But it becomes essential to have assurance about the security of each implementation of vulnerable key generation algorithm employed by trusted credential issuer. At this time, we have 188 Trusted Certification Authority public key certificates installed in the certificate store of OS X El Capitan. And a similar number of certificates are installed in the Firefox, Google Chrome, and Microsoft Windows certificate store. Have we sufficient assurance about the 100 certification authority certificates we daily entrust our business upon? The CA Browser Forum requires publicly trusted certificates to be issued in compliance with the European standard EN 319-411-3. According to the standard, the certification authority key generation is to be carried out within a device that meets the requirements identified by some approved protection profile. SAN Workshop Agreement 14167, Part 2, 3, and 4 are three of those protection profile. The assurance level is EL4 augmented. Augmentation comes from adherence to three additional security requirements. These security requirements are focused on assessing the vulnerabilities of the target evaluation and guaranteeing the implementation representation is an accurate and complete instantiation of the target evaluation security functional requirements. Special emphasis is placed on identifying cover channel and estimating their capacity, which is fortunate because setup attacks exploit the key generation as a cover channel for itself. But at the end of the day, is the developer to be in charge for the vulnerability assessment and the documentation phase. And this clearly conflicts with our threat model, right? The evaluator is left with the documentation and the implementation representation to be assessed. So can the presence of backdoor be ruled out at the required assurance level? If the evaluation was to be carried out at EL6 or EL7, the evaluator could have made use of formal methods, which are beneficial. They don't solve anything, but they are beneficial. But at EL4, the implementation representation may render backdoor detection unlikely. Just think about how hard can be to detect the presence of malicious logic, look into the hardware description language provided at design time, or the netlist provided at the fabrication time. Therefore, the key takeaway I would like to leave you with today is that as long as the implementation of RSA or other algorithms vulnerable to this class of backdoors used by trusted entities cannot be audited by relying parties, that any trust anchors for the same trusted entities is to be regarded as a potential backdoor. Which is to say that as long as the implementation of RSA cannot be RSA or more generally algorithms vulnerable to this class attack cannot be audited by relying parties, the assurance provided by illusoryTLS, none whatsoever, is not any different from the assurance provided by systems rely on TLS and RSA certificates for origin authentication, confidentiality, and message integrity guarantees. A number of mitigations exist on paper, ranging from key pinning to proper explicit cross-certification. But none of them has been widely deployed yet. So we have a problem. We have an open problem. But let's look to the most funny part of this. Because the subtleness of the backdoor planted in cryptographic credential resides in the absence of malicious logic in the system whose security it erodes. We have no malicious logic in the communicating endpoints. Admittedly funnier, though, is the backdoor embedding algorithm. Today, I would like to share with you a novel backdoor embedding algorithm. A few weeks after my submission to the under-ended crypto contest, Ryan Castellucci submitted his attack variant, shared his attack variant on GitHub. So I would like to start from this. The idea is to embed the curve 25519 public key into the key generator and generate an ephemeral curve 25519 key at random. Using these two keys, it's possible to compute a shared secret using elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman. And we can use the shared secret to see the cryptographically secure pseudo-random number generator based on AES running counter mode or other algorithm. Using the generator, we can generate a standard RSA key pair and replace 32 bytes of the generate modulus with ephemeral curve 25519 public key. Using this quantity at the original prime factors, we can compute two new primes leading to a new modulus embedding the ephemeral public key and output an RSA key pair with a backdoor embedded within. In order to perform a key recovery attack, the attacker starts extracting the ephemeral curve 25519 public key from the target modulus and computing the shared secret using elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman. In order to do that, the attacker needs to have access to the public key associated to the public key embedded in the key generator. Therefore, we have the nobody but us security property. The attacker used this shared secret to seed the same cryptographically secure pseudo-random number generator and generate a standard RSA key pair. Replace 32 bytes of the generate modulus with the ephemeral curve 25519 public key, and use this quantity and the original factors, computes two new primes leading to the target modulus embedding the ephemeral public key. And the key recover attack is there. The attacker can output the recover RSA private key. Now, although the idea is nice, the key pair generated using this algorithm falls short in terms of indistinguishability. Therefore, the scheme should be regarded as broken. In fact, it's easy to tell backdoor certificates apart from genuine RSA certificates using only black box access. Does anybody of you see why this is the case? Anybody? Well, what we're doing here is to embed the public key into the RSA modulus, right? But elliptic curve public keys are point on the curve. And elliptic curve point can be easily distinguished from uniform random strings because they satisfy the elliptic curve equation. So a security evaluator could check if the coordinates encoded using the candidate 32 bytes substrings of the modulus satisfy the elliptic curve equation. Can we repair the backdoor? How to do that? Any idea? Well, the basic intuition is that if we could make the elliptic curve points indistinguishable from random strings, then the backdoor indistinguishability would be retained, hopefully retained. Designed by Daniel Bernstein, Arna Krasnova, Mike Hamburg, and Tanya Lange in order to make anti-censorship protocols undetectable, Alligator provides a method for encoding points on a single curve as strings indistinguishable from uniform random strings. Now, this is very interesting to me, because all cybersecurity technology is inherently dual use. This long-held and well-sustained belief is corroborated by Alligator. Just like any and all cybersecurity tools, undetectability of core points can be used for good or ill, for censorship circumvention or for surveillance. But I believe we can positively contribute to the discussion practice of security engineering by walking the fine line between offense and defense. And in this spirit, I took a little time to write the Python binding to Alligator and implementation Alligator supporting Curve 25519, and rewrote the backdoor embedding algorithm in order to make sure that the backdoor key pairs are indistinguishable from Z1 standard RSA key pairs. And the attack works as follows. We start embedding a Curve 25519 public key into the key generator and generate an ephemeral Curve 25519 key at random and the associated uniform representative string. Using these two keys, we compute a share secret, use the share secret to see the cryptographically secure pseudo-random number generator based on AES running counter mode. Using the generator, we generate a standard RSA key pair and replace 32 bytes of the generator modulus with the representative string associated to the ephemeral Curve 25519 public key. Using this quantity and the original prime factors, we compute two new primes leading to the new modulus embedding the uniform representative string. But this time around, the embedded quantity is indistinguishable from uniform random strings. So we retain the indistinguishability property, hopefully. And we can output the backdoor RSA key pair. In order to perform a key recovery attack, the same attacker extracted the representative string found in the target modulus, map the representative string to the candidate ephemeral Curve 25519 public key, compute the share secret. In order to do that, need to have access to the private key associated to the public key embedded into the key generator. So again, we have the nobody but us security property. And use the share secret to see the same cryptographically secure pseudo-random number generator. The attacker generated a standard RSA key pair and replaced 32 bytes of the generate modulus with a representative string found in the target modulus. Using this quantity at the original prime factors, the attacker compute two new primes, leading to the target modulus embedding the uniform representative string. And the attacker succeeds in recovering the original RSA private key that he can safely output. And that's pretty much it as far as the attack goes. The code is published on GitHub, so please use it responsibly. But before wrapping up, I have one last remark to make. I would like to close with Vincent van Gogh, who once said, "Though I often in the depth of misery, there is still calmness, pure harmony, a music inside me." If you, like me, believe that insecurity or the presence of unmitigatable surprises is the misery of our time, if you, like me, believe that insecurity is the misery of our times, and at the same time, you, like me, are also sanguine about our ability to attain better security trade-off, and to give to our children the chance to reach confidence in the process to which they will entrust their business, then we can paraphrase Vincent van Gogh and say that though we are often in the depth of insecurity, there is still calmness, pure harmony, a music inside us. Thank you. Any questions? If I can trust 188?
No, do you trust every of 180 CA on your computer?
Well, actually, I don't, but I can do anything meaningful to retain security while using my computer. So I live into the sorrow state of the current public key infrastructure. As a point in case, just 2 days ago, we found out that Dell is following the lead of Lenovo, installing a rogue certification authority in their computers. And not only, on the top of that, there are software vendors publishing their app in their app stores. They are doing likewise. They install rogue certification authorities. Unfortunately, the technical measure in order to prevent the exploitation of this trust relationship exists in our PKI technology standardizing the Internet Engineering Task Force, but we are not using those mechanisms as they are expected to be used. So we are exploitable, we are vulnerable nowadays. Yeah, there is one more question right there.
Microphone, please.
Thank you. What do you think about DNSSEC? And if you know the DANE protocol that possible to insert self-signet certificate and put the fingerprint in DNS?
Well, the idea in general to build trust on the top of the naming hierarchy is nice in theory. But I believe that along the path of the standardization effort, we lose a bit of sight of some important technical details, and I'm not persuaded that DNSSEC is going to solve our security problems nowadays, this class of security problems, actually. Any more questions? Oh, yep.
Sorry if I'm somehow don't understand something from your speech, but can you answer me? Are there real backdoors in TLS now or not? Have you seen one?
Well, there is the possibility to exploit some vulnerabilities that are right there. I'm not in the position to know if somebody is actively exploiting them, because you can do that without getting notice. You can mount essentially, whenever you recover a key, after interfering with the supply chain and with the key generation technologies used by the certification authority, you can mount a man-in-the-middle attack, breaking the TLS security guarantees at will. So I'm not in the position to know if this already happened, precisely because the attack is subtle and is difficult to detect. Some technologies like certificate transparency and key pinning may help us to detect active attacks in the field and trace back eventually some of them to this class of problems we have in the public key infrastructure. But it's a work that needs to be carried out by entities and actors better positioned than me into the network.
Clear, thanks.
Any more questions? No question? Oh, maybe there?
First, I was very late at your talk. I'm sorry, but maybe it's not related at all. But how do you see this initiative of Let's Encrypt for providing massive certificates for free for everywhere, for everybody?
Oh, well, on the one hand, the idea is nice because we can placing all security stakeholders, all users of public infrastructure in the position to have it essentially for free and to automate the renewal of their certificates. So on one side, this is a positive initiative that I welcome and I believe I will be using also Let's Encrypt certification authority. That said, at the same time, there are some underlying problems, technological problems, that are orthogonal to all certification authorities. And they are related to how public infrastructure work or don't work nowadays. So there are some industry-wide challenges that need to be addressed. And Let's Encrypt will need to face them like anybody else. Any more questions? Anyway, I will be hanging around here today and also tomorrow, so feel free to catch me around and keep discussing. Thank you. Thank you.